Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. As my erstwhile cameraman, video editor, production assistant and all-round dog's body is away next week, we'll be doing an extended version of the Good Dram Show this evening, and we will be tasting 3 whiskies, or in sporting terminology it'll be a triple header tonight. So what have we got? Here we have the 15-year-old Redbreast, which is a pure pot still Irish whiskey. The Bushmills 10-year-old, which is another pleasant Irish whiskey with a little bit of sherry cask in the mix. And this is the Connemara Turf Mor. Connemara being the peated range of whiskies that are produced at the Cooley distillery. The Turf Mor is a small batch, fairly young, probably about 5 years old, peated malt. So there should be quite a difference in style between the three, which we will obviously hope to find out. Right, okay, so let's start with the 15-year-old Redbreast. Now, the Redbreast is a pure pot still Irish whiskey. Now, you may think that all whiskey, apart from grain whiskey, is distilled in a pot still, and you would indeed be correct. But in Irish whiskey terminology, a pot still whiskey refers to the mash bill. This mash bill is made up of not just malted barley, but there's also some unmalted barley in the mash, and that should give it quite an oily kind of character. So let's stick a nose in and see what happens. Well, yep, it certainly has a lovely oily, a viscous kind of character. There's certainly quite a bit of maturity noticeable on the nose, and it has some lovely rich fruit and a slightly high-toned, almost kind of grainy kind of quality to it, which is rather appealing. So there's also a slight earthy character coming through now, and this is seriously complex. Right, okay, let's give it a taste and see what it's like. There's a real crispness there. Certainly slightly oily, with some lovely rich dried apricots, a little bit of citrus coming through, and again it has that kind of almost grainy character just coming through on the back of the palate. There's obviously some maturity. The oak is obviously coming through. You're getting layers of mocha and cocoa with some oldish wood character as well. All round, this is an exceptional malt. The 12-year-old is cheaper, obviously. This is being 15 is slightly more expensive. So if you wanted to experiment with Redbreast, you could start with the 12-year-old, so it wouldn't stretch the pocket. But all round, this is an absolutely gorgeous Irish whiskey. Okay, right, let's look at the Bushmills 10-year-old and see what that gives us on the nose. Now, there's not quite as much sherry as you would expect. There's a little bit giving some kind of background richness, but it's that sort of hard barley character that is synonymous with Bushmills. A lot of people don't particularly like Bushmills and prefer Jameson's, because Jameson's generally has a sort of a softer kind of character, but I really like the hardness of the Bushmills nose. And certainly if you taste the Black Bush, which is Bushmills blend, the sort of hard grainy character really comes through on that, which is again suits my taste. But coming back to the Bushmills, there is it's lovely. It's got a nice richness and is quite different to the Redbreast. Okay, let's see what this tastes like. Yep, again, it has a sort of a nice pleasant crisp character, but the sherry is adding on some dried fruits and a little bit of that rich sherry spice that you tend to get. It's a moderate length, with again finishing quite austere, which is I tend to find is the character of Bushmills. But it's sort of a really nice, pleasant aperitif style whiskey, which again is a sort of a classic style. So definitely one to try. And finally we have the Turf Mor. Now we're expecting a bit of peat on this, so let's see. Well, as you'd expect, it is young. It's probably around about 5 years old, and so like the Octomore and the Kilhoman that I tasted in previous episodes, it does have a quite high-toned, very youthful character. The peat is definitely there. It's a sort of dry, almost slightly astringent style of peat with some pleasant smoke. But what sets it out is that the actual spirit character itself has got some lovely sweetness to it, which kind of balances things out. So if it didn't have that sort of sweetness, it would be quite austere and quite hard work and probably a little bit one-dimensional. But you can certainly smell the bonfire character coming through now, and it's got a bracing, not quite a coastal character, but a bracing character nevertheless. Okay, right, shall we see what this tastes like? Well, first up is the alcohol. Obviously this is bottled at cask strength, and so the alcohol really hits the palate, but you certainly intermingled with that you get the lovely sweetness that I was explaining is noticeable on the nose. It really dries towards the finish as the peat starts coming in, and it sort of tapers at the edge of the mouth, so you get the flavour spreading out and the peat kind of lingering right on the edge of the tongue. The combination of the alcohol and certainly sort of dries out the finish a little bit, so putting a little drop of water with this would certainly lengthen and probably fill it out a little bit. But as peated malts go, not hugely peated, but there's a pleasant degree there, with that sort of bonfire-y kind of character. So all round, another really pleasant peated malt. Well, so in summing up, here you have three really pleasant and unique Irish whiskies. Each shows a different style to Irish whiskies, and are quite interesting. Obviously, budgetary wise, the Bushmills 10-year-old is the cheapest of the three that we have on display here, and is a good sort of introduction to the sort of sherry style of Irish whiskey. Like I was saying with the Redbreast, if you wanted to sort of start looking at that type of whiskey, then obviously the 12-year-old being less expensive would be a good one to start at, but the 15-year-old is absolutely stunning. And the Connemara. Again, there's a number of in the range of Connemara. It starts off with a no age statement 40% bottling. They also do a cask strength bottling, again, that doesn't have an age statement, plus they do a 12-year-old. This was one of the first in the small batch collections that the distillery released, and again it's bottled at cask strength, like I said, 58.2%, and is really quite enjoyable. So there you have it, three really interesting Irish whiskies. If you'd like to read my tasting notes, they're obviously on my blog, my WordPress blog. If you wish to purchase them, you can do so at www.gauntleys.com, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the show. I would also like to say thank you for everyone that's watched the earlier episodes of the show, and please look us up on Facebook. So until next time,